In this video, we're going to continue building an engineering master, and we're going to show how to create a purchase part number from the material requirements set up earlier. And so if you recall, we are looking at this bracket revision A. And we set up to laser cut, press brake, and then powder coat. And so here is the laser process. And then to the right, you have the material requirement, which is 48 by 120/18 gauge steel. That's a common raw material. So we want to set that up as a purchase part number so that in the future, not only this part, but all part numbers that use 18 gauge steel will use the same purchase part number. So that can be done easily by clicking Create PPN. And that'll bring up the form allowing you to fill in the details that will help you identify this purchase part number. And the first option you have is selecting the vendor. So we'll do a drop down here and select a vendor. Now the vendor I want to select or the vendor that I purchased this from is not in the list of vendors. So I will click on Edit Vendor. Add New. And this brings up the form allowing me to add a new vendor. The very first field is the vendor approval value. Method. This is used for ISO. And how you determine that this is an approved vendor. So you have different options you can select here. We're just going to leave it with first order evaluation. So you'll fill in the company name for this vendor. We'll say sample vendor at. A company email is the amount that the vendor receives the purchase order. And so, you would type in that email address here for this vendor when you resend them a purchase order. The create emails manually, what this will do is if this is checked, when FloorVisio is told to send an email, it will open up your email client on your computer, fill in the email details, you would attach the purchase order, and then you can hit send. If this is unchecked, FloorVisio can send the email itself through the FloorVisio system. And so once all of these details are filled in for this vendor, I will go ahead and click Save. Now come back to the purchase part number form. Now you'll see the vendors in the list of vendors. So I can click the vendor. Now quantity quoted, what this is for your reference to say you asked for a quantity of 10 to be quoted and it came back at $105 a sheet. Now these classes, types, shapes, gauges, and unit of measure are for you to be able to identify and further clarify each and every purchase part number. And so we'll say raw materials. Cobalt steel, not concerned about a shape on this one. We'll say a 10 gauge. Now the vendor part number, we'll put in a part number here for this one. It's not a package, because we buy them by the sheet. Thickness, width, length, description. And here's purchasing notes. That's the same as the purchasing notes on the engineering master referenced in an earlier video. So once all these fields are filled in, I can click Save Purchase Part Number and you'll now see that the laser has the 48 by 128/10 gauge steel, but it's now at purchase part number 9. So now what I'll do is I'll show you adding this material requirement from the purchase part number. So I'm going to remove this material requirement. So here's the laser process and we need to add a material requirement for the laser. So I'll say add rec. Now instead of typing all the stuff in, we will click Find Purchase Part Number. You can see it's in there. Now your list will generate as your system matures, you'll have hundreds and thousands of purchased part numbers. So you can click on Search Purchase Part Number. We're gonna search by 18 gauge. You can see it came up right there. Now we can go ahead and click the purchase part number. Here when we're finding it, and it would bring it over, or we can click it up here and hit select. Now you see it put in the purchase requirement. It doesn't know the quantity. We'll put that here in a second. Setup quantity that was covered earlier. Now you see the vendors filled in, the PPN numbers filled in, the lead times filled in, and the descriptions filled in. So all that's left now to do is figure out the quantity. So we'll go ahead and fill this in again. Use this value. Now the quantity is filled in, everything is filled in, and I hit save. You can see there it is. So that's a way to make this material of 48 by 1 2018 gauge steel. A purchase part number of 9, which will then be used across all parts that use 48 by 1 2018 gauge steel.